What up, y'all? It's Joe Budden, here to talk about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to win real money while watching football. You can get up to 100 times your money.
Prize Picks will give you $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Just download the Prize Picks app and use code SPOTIFY. That's code SPOTIFY on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play a $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
Being a marketer's no sweat. You just have to manage dozens of channels, launch hundreds of campaigns, score thousands of leads, and okay, fine, it's a lot of sweat. Unless you have HubSpot's AI-powered marketing tools to help you do all that and more. Get started at HubSpot.com/marketers.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Kelly Green Hour. It's Victory Green Hour number 7 and number 5 in a row as the Philadelphia Eagles go to Texas and demolish the Dallas Cowboys 34-6. And we have the gang back together, Connor and I, for the first time in like a week and a half, it feels like. We want to thank Dives and Ryan for stepping in for us last week. Dives with me on Tuesday, Ryan with you on Friday. And I'm your host, LJ Rowe, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Connor Donald. Connor, I'm glad to be back with you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope you enjoyed your weekend, and life as a father of two again is going amazing. And I mean, it was made like that much better by just the demolition, as you said, that happened yesterday in Dallas, getting that monkey off the back of not being able to win in Dallas in I think it was since 8 straight it's been like quite a while, quite a stretch. Yeah. So it was great. It was great. We cannot talk enough about this game. It's going to be so great to talk about.
Yep, which we will. Before we jump in, as always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJRow54. And follow Eagles Pin Pool Network on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, everywhere at Eagles Pin Pool. And if you're joining us live in the comments, let us know your thoughts to the game, to the 34-6 victory. Let us know your player of the game. Let us know your play of the game. There was a lot of plays that were made. And it was, to me, kind of like a tale of two halves because the Eagles offensive line did not handle the pressure that Mike Zimmer and that Dallas defense brought. 5 sacks, 2 turnovers. Dallas didn't have a sack in the second half. And, the Eagles, who deserves a lot of credit, is that defense. And I said, and at the beginning of the year, I was all over the Vic Fangio is cooked train. Man, has he proven me wrong. This defense is playing out of their minds now. Yes, I know it's been the Browns with Deshaun Watson stink. The Giants stink. The Bengals are meh. What other team besides Dallas? Who did we beat?
The Jags and then the Cowboys.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. The Jaguars and the Cowboys suck too. Have we played the best competition? No, but you have to play the teams on your schedule. Those 5 teams are combined, I think, 13-31, if I'm not mistaken, which is crazy. Just the parity in the NFL right now. There's the haves, which are maybe a handful of teams, and the have-nots, which is everybody else. And I think the Eagles are part of the haves right now. And we're going to find out huge on Thursday night, which we're going to talk about on Wednesday. So everybody that usually tunes in Friday for our preview episode, it will be Wednesday this week with the Eagles playing on Thursday night, playing the Washington Commanders. And we can't wait to discuss that game on Wednesday. But, Connor, like we said, this game, looking at the stats, it didn't feel like the Eagles ran the ball well. They ran for 187 yards, if I'm not mistaken. It just 187 yards. It felt like they couldn't really do much offensively. They put up 34 points. It helped that Dallas turned the ball over five. What did I tell you a couple of weeks ago, Connor? Remember when we were discussing sacks and they couldn't get sacks? And I said, they'll start coming in bunches. And then they had 13 in 2 games. And then we were talking about how they couldn't get turnovers. They had 2 through 4 games or something like that. They had 5 yesterday. They've had 8 or 9 in the last couple of weeks. Turnovers, sacks on the defensive side of the football, they come in bunches. And this defense is doing what we have pleaded for them to do all season long. And they are taking the football away and taking advantage of these turnovers and extra possessions that they're getting.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we talked about how hard had to be on a defense to constantly be having the offense turn the ball over and putting them in bad field position. I think me and Ryan talked about it on the last episode. It's such a game changer when it flips the other way, and you can see why it is so vitally important to win the turnover battle and why it is so hard to win games if you're losing the turnover battle. It's such a game changer. And it feels like me and Ryan talked about it, and you and I have talked about it over the past couple episodes. The Miami defense got better as the season went on because there are so many complexities to this defense that if you have to play all the preseason games and show your cards for the guys to be comfortable by week 2 or 3. Otherwise, you have to wait for 4, 5, 6 weeks into the season to understand the complexities, to figure out your fit in the system, figure out, except for unless you're Zach Baun. Zach Baun figured that out from week 1 and hasn't looked back. But for the most part, a lot of these guys have had to figure out how to fit into the system, how they fit into the system, how to work the system. And they are coming leaps and bounds. Bryce Huff, I mean, he didn't get a whole lot of opportunities. Yes.
Sack fumble.
The opportunities he had exactly at that big fumble. Jalen Hunt finally on the field, and he was looking like respectable. Like
he got more snaps than Bryce Huff.
He got more, exactly. Like it's going to be interesting to see down the stretch how they continue to manage Bryce Huff, who you paid a boatload of money. Jalen Hunt, who was your developmental guy, but clearly, it doesn't appear as though Josh Sweat. Like me and Ryan talked about it on the last episode. Josh Sweat is in a good spot because pass rush is a premium. We know it is a premium position, and he knows good as anybody that if he hits the free agent market, he's going to get paid. Even though he's, mediocre, subpar, whatever we want to say, he's not the greatest guy. When he shows up in bunches. When he disappears for weeks. But at the end of the day, it's such a premium position. How he's not going to be able to match what some other team is going to be willing to do. And that's what me and Ryan discussed on Friday was he knows his market. Zach Baun, on the other hand, some team may pay him a lot of money. And if they don't use him the way that Vic Fangio's using him, he's going to be an absolute waste of their dollar. But that's a different story, different contract talk for a different day. But
it is, and I think I said it to you, and if not, I said it to Dives last week. He may have priced himself out of being an Eagle. Now I know the Eagles paid Saquon, and that's something that the running back position is somewhat a position that they really haven't valued. I mean, Shady obviously they paid, but and DeMarco Murray. But for the most part, they haven't valued the running back position. They did pay Saquon. They normally don't value the linebacker position. Baun's on a 1-year deal, and Nakobe Dean was a 3rd-round pick. I think that them two together is good. I think Baun is really good for Nakobe Dean. And if he doesn't come back, I don't know how that will change Nakobe Dean in terms of the way he's been playing. But it will be interesting to see what happens. It wouldn't shock me if behind the scenes how he was talking to his agent, trying to work something out to get ahead of it, because every game he plays, that price tag is going up. And it's crazy because we went years without the Eagles having a competent linebacker. I mean, they had the Nigel Brown, they had TJ Edwards, Kaiser White, but they haven't had that consistency. Instead of going out and trying to find that guy, you have that guy that fits in this Vic Fangio defense. Keep him. And everybody saying they made a mistake getting rid of TJ Edwards or not bringing back TJ Edwards. I think he wanted to go back home. He's from that area, the Chicago area, and he literally signed 5 minutes after the legal tampering period opened up. So I kind of felt like that was a thing that was going to happen. He kind of just wanted to go. He just wanted to be back close to home. And it's unfortunate because he was good here. But Zach Baun, I can't believe that the Saints had him as an outside backer rushing the passer for the most part. Who knew that this guy was this good? It was an underrated signing, obviously, for the Eagles. Because when the Eagles signed him, everybody's like, oh, okay, it's another pass rusher, blah, blah, blah. Nobody thought he was going to be an off-the-ball linebacker. And he has done an outstanding job. He's been just so, worlds better than any of us thought he was going to be. And, he's, top 5, if I'm not mistaken, in the NFL. He's close to 100 tackles already. There's a shot he could hit 200 tackles this year. It's crazy. Him and Nakobe Dean are always around the football. And it's awesome how Baun in his post-game press conference or post-game interview after the game, he's like, when Nakobe makes a play, I feel like I made the play. When I make the play, it feels like Nakobe made the play. If Nakobe does one thing, I want to try to up him. If I do one thing, Nakobe wants to try to up me. That competition that they have is really cool, and I hope that the Eagles are able to work something out, because he's just been a saving grace for the linebacker position for the Eagles this year. And I think it's going to help somebody like Trotter. Like Trotter can learn from him. He's from Baun. He's a vet. And you don't have to really throw Trotter into the starting mix right away, even next year. Like let him work his way into that, continue to learn the defense, get his body into an NFL player. And then, when Baun, if say you sign him to a 2-3 year deal, maybe towards the back end of that, Trotter will be ready. And then you can have the Trotter and Nakobe Dean, pairing. Like there's so much to think about in terms of that. And obviously we don't want to think too far, because that's, off-season stuff. And the way that the Eagles are playing, we're thinking till February. But just the way he's been playing and all that he's done, for Nakobe Dean, it's just been great to see. And he hasn't let up. He's been really good all year, like you said, from game 1 in Brazil against Green Bay.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe how he's, waiting things out to see if Vic Fangio sticks around. I mean, because if we win a Super Bowl, Vic Fangio, or we make a deep run in the playoffs, Vic Fangio probably stays around. If we miss the playoffs, which is really not looking likely right now, maybe Vic Fangio would have said, okay, I've had enough. I mean, the guy's 75 years old. Like maybe he's waiting, because he knows as good as anybody, if I pay Zach Baun and I got a whole different system coming in, is Zach Baun going to be worth the money and as effective?
Well, I honestly don't think that there would be a new system. I think that they would hire Christian Parker, I think, is the defensive backs coach. And what he has done with that secondary, he could be somebody that could potentially get the bump up the defensive coordinator. I don't think it's going to be the same. I don't think it's going to be like bringing in Matt Patricia and Sean Desai. I do think that Fangio is going to stick around for at least 2 years, 3 years potentially. He's not going to get a head coaching job again. I don't even think he wants to. And B, this is going to be his last stop. The question will be how long. If they win the Super Bowl, maybe he retires on top. That could happen. But maybe he's going to want to stick. The youth on this defense, man, we've talked about it. They're young at defensive tackle. They're young at the linebacker position. I don't know how old Baun is. I think he's 27-ish, if I'm not mistaken. They're definitely young in the secondary.
Yeah, he's 28 on 28? December 30th.
Oh, so I was right with 27. That was a good guess.
But that's not that old for if you're talking like a running back, yeah, that's ancient. If you're talking like a linebacker, he's got, if he keeps in the system, he's got a good probably 3-4 years ahead of him.
And again, and with the outstanding job that Howie did with getting Quinyon Mitchell, with getting Cooper DeJean. This defense has, ever since Cooper DeJean has been inserted into the starting lineup, it's ridiculous how much better at tackling they are, how more physical they are. You can see what he learned at Iowa. It's amazing. He has done an outstanding job. He went up against Jamar Chase. He went up against CeeDee Lamb. He's not going up against, he may have gotten Malik Neighbors a couple of times. He's not going up against Drek. He's going up against some of the top receivers in the league. And he's shown he doesn't allow the star hype, the star power of the player across from him bother him. He does exactly what he needs to do. And I love just the physicalness of this defense, and just the way they fly around, and the way that the celebrations are back, the way they play with each other, play for each other. It's just great to watch week in and week out.
No, I absolutely agree. Teams must be kicking themselves in the ass to know that they allowed Cooper DeJean to fall. And I know that, I think the biggest thing during the whole draft process was, is he a safety? Is he a slot corner? Can he be an outside cornerback? And the Eagles have found they drafted him, and they found a way to put him in the perfect spot for him to succeed. And now we know he is definitely a nickel cornerback. Quinyon Mitchell, you got two of your cornerback positions. I've said it in previous episodes, set for the next, hopefully, money speaks too, but hopefully for the next decade, you got 2 out of 3 cornerback spots set in stone, no matter what happens in Philadelphia. And that's because of this. And, I guess sometimes you just have to take that risk. And Howie said, I don't care where he fits. We have a need. We had a need at safety. He might go there. We also have a need at slot corner. Maybe he's going to fit there. and he fit in perfectly in the slot corner spot. And they knew they didn't need him as an outside cornerback. If injuries happen, maybe they can kick him outside, but they knew that they didn't need him as an outside cornerback, because then they got Kenyon Mitchell. So Howie addressed it and did such a good job of addressing it. And then, like you said, the youth is just amazing. Like Zach Baun's still young. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's only like 25, 26 years old.
Yep.
You think Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and Kobe Dean, like some of the like Keely Ringo, Jeremiah Trask, some of the guys who are in the background learning, getting ready. Isaiah Rodgers, even Reed Blankenship. I know you don't love Reed Blankenship, but he's still young. And
I think having the rookies, having Quinyon Mitchell and having Cooper DeJean, as some of these other older players start phasing out, as the Darius Slays start phasing out, you can probably spend more in a different position. Like you can
edge is a need. You can spend more. You can spend on edge. Maybe not, because we saw what he did with Bryce Huff, but he could double. Me and Ryan talked about, what about the possibility of double dipping at edge in the first with two of your three day one and day two picks. Maybe you have the flexibility to do that and try and address the edge position without spending big on the edge position. Because in the back of Howie's mind, he spent on Bryce Huff, and he may not go into free agency with that aggressive of mentality to spend at edge because of the money that's there for Bryce Huff, and still hoping that Bryce Huff turns around. The fact that, now we're sitting there and Bryce Huff is more of like a situational pass rusher is kind of frustrating. You have to have him in a wide 9 stance with only one hand in the dirt. It has to be very specific, and he's not an all-around edge rusher that you can put out there like they played 60 defensive snaps. You can't go out there and have him go for, 40 defensive snaps and give you optimal pressure or be a super effective edge rusher. It's a little bit frustrating. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see, but like, I know edge is definitely going to be the focal point and the key of like what they need to address in this offseason. I haven't looked at who is coming up as free agents, but I don't think it's not as bad as last year. There's some. They're going to definitely,
and me and Dibes talked about it last week. I mean, it's a 99.9% chance that the first pick is going to be an edge rusher. He gave some great names from of guys in Texas A&M, maybe Abdul Carter from Penn State, unfortunately. But also, like,
they have success with Penn State people. Like, you can't knock
not drafting them. No.
Not drafting them. Watching them in the NFL and saying, I want to pay that guy. Okay, yes.
Like Dallas is let's put it this way. Dallas is gonna be hurt. Like, Dallas may be mediocre for the next 2 to 3 years, 3 to 4 years. They've already paid Dak. They've paid CD. Micah Parsons coming up on a contract. He wants to be the highest paid defensive player of all time. Like, are they going to be able to afford him? Does he even want to be there? Like, maybe, it would never happen. Like, Jerry Jones would never trade Micah Parsons to the Eagles. But like, if Howie were to call him up and be like, and at his old age, maybe he wouldn't even know. Would if Howie called up Jerry Jones and was like, first and second or 2 first or whatever it is, let me get Micah Parsons. The way he handles contracts, he'd be able to make it work. And like that would complete the Bermuda Triangle of Penn State players from the NFC East, getting Saquon from the Giants and getting Jahan Dotson from the Commanders, and then finishing it off with Micah Parsons from the Cowboys. But that's a different story for a different day if it were to happen. But like that would solve an edge rusher issue. Like,
massively.
As much as he talks about the Eagles, like, let's be honest, and he claims that like he wasn't an Eagles fan and he was a Cowboys fan growing up, blah blah blah. But let's be real, the way he talks about, he admires what's going on over here. And Saquon probably, like, they were teammates at Penn State. You have to think Saquon kind of dropping it in his ear, like, bro, you want to be over here, like telling him how things are like over here compared to what it could be like in other situations. So like, I do still think Dallas is going to give give Micah a huge contract. I mean, they'd be dumb not to. But anything. I guess anything can happen.
That puts you in a tough spot. You paid your 3 guys, but your 3 guys are going to account for like 33% of your salary cap.
More than that, because I'm pretty sure Dak
spend on the other 50.
I'm pretty sure Dak and CD already cost like 30% of the salary cap.
Exactly. So even worse, like if you pay Micah Parsons that
like
top
50%.
Defensive player, yeah, you're 50%. Then you got it's the top 51, I think, that get under. So then you got to figure 48 guys to fit under 50% of salary cap. Like you have to draft super well. And I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I know we haven't talked a whole lot about the game, but one of their picks, DeMarvion Overshown, had a great game. Like he looked really good. So, but periodically they hit on draft picks, but they miss too. They swing and they miss on a lot of draft picks. I mean, Luke Schoonmaker, like just to think of a couple guys that they invested heavily in and are barely seeing anything or are definitely not performing to the degree that they thought. Of course, every team is going to swing and miss, but you literally, if you are 45 to 50% of your salary cap invested in 3 players, you literally have to swing and hit home runs on every single draft. You can miss maybe on one, but you have to hit home runs on almost every draft pick in order for your team to be anything.
They're actually decent at drafting though. Like they've hit more than they missed. Like I would say that their percentage of hitting on draft picks is higher than Howie's percentage right now. But Howie has gotten better over the years. Now it's easy when you're drafting Devontae Smith and you're drafting like Quinyon Mitchell. Like it's easier.
Jalen Carter.
Jalen Carter when you're drafting these guys that are blue chippers. It's what you do in the later rounds, and Howie is getting better at that. He's not there yet. Like if there's a deficiency,
he loves
in Howie,
his developmental pieces, and some of the teams like the Cowboys love their I see what you can do. Let's work with it. And Howie's more of that. He loves the intangibles. We know that. He did it with Milton Williams. He did it with Jalen Hunt. He loves those guys. He's like, but if we could unlock this guy, and how many times have we seen him truly unlock like the middle? Like we've seen him unlock Jordan Mailata. That's a 7th, but that's a whole different ballgame. But when he continues. When you continue, and that's Jeff Stoutland, that has nothing to do with Howie. But when you constantly invest like a third round, because it's always those third rounders. Jalen Hunt was a third rounder. I think Milton Williams was a third rounder. When you're constantly investing third rounders in these developmental guys, and some other teams are hitting home runs with guys that they can plug and play right away, it becomes very frustrating. And that's where Howie seems to miss is that 3rd round, 4th round, where he's like, look at the intangibles. What can we do with this? And then they can't really, or it takes a long time. Like Nolan Smith, he's starting to come around. He was a 1st rounder, so that's even worse. Nolan Smith was a 1st rounder, so you want him to be ready day one. And he's finally starting to come around a little bit, but he's not going to be a guy that you play, 75, 80% of snaps. He's not going to be effective in that type of range. He's going to be more effective in the range that he is, 20 to 30 snaps at a 60 in a game. And he's going to be effective on about half of those, half of snaps. So, I agree with you there. The Cowboys are better, but it's such a different ball game when you're in a situation where you're that deep. Like, look at the Saints. Think about the Saints. The Saints and the Cowboys would be so eerily – they are very eerily similar right now from a cap standpoint and how they manage their cap. They just don't – and me and Ryan talked about it on the episode. We spent most of the episode just bashing Jerry and Stephen Jones and that they need to step back and put, like, actual – football minds in the room and let them do their job.
We don't need that. We don't need that happen.
We don't need it, but they need it. And like the only thing Jeffrey does is he has a say in his coaches. He likes his type of coach. We know he likes his type of coach. We know he likes to be involved in that process, which is fine. But Jerry,
which is why I don't know. I don't think Bill Belichick will go there.
I have the hardest because Bill Belichick, one of the big things that kind of led to the demise in New England was he wanted more power and kept wanting more power, especially from a personnel standpoint. If you're going into Jerry world, you have no power over A, what he says, B, what he wants done with the team, and so many other things. I mean, it's just such a dumpster fire there. And I mean, we love it. I prefer it to stay that way. Same with New York. I prefer, that Daniel Jones contract was a major blessing. Now, once they get out from under Daniel Jones and maybe Brian Daboll finally, and Joe Scone finally get their pick of their quarterback, maybe things start to turn around there. But I mean,
they're not even going to get that far. I think that Joe Shane and Brian Dable are probably going to be fired after this year, but we'll find out.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the game a little bit. Ryan says Eagles are giving the ball a lot to Barkley, but my only issue is they're not giving him the ball a lot early. They wait till later to run the ball. Why don't they start the game off running a lot? It's always passing early on in the game. Oh, freaking Hurts passing on first downs. Why? Well, I think, obviously the Eagles are now, granted, over the last 5 to 6 weeks, the Eagles have run the ball most in the NFL, about 59-60% of the time. And that's because Jalen Hurts is really good. This offensive line is a lot better running the football. But a lot of teams like to use the pass to set up the run. And that, the Eagles have started to go under center more and doing play action and handing the ball off to Saquon. But when it comes to Saquon, though, he is somebody that he needs to get into a rhythm. The first couple carries, he'll have a 1 yarder, 3 yarder, maybe have a no gain, and then he'll be able to hit one for 15, 20 yards. So I do agree that they need to get him involved more. There have been games he didn't touch the ball until the second quarter, and we would come on Monday and be like, "What the hell happened?" But the Eagles have been able to finally start scoring in the first quarter and get leads in the second quarter into the second half to where they can start leaning on the run game. I do like yesterday, though, that they were able to get a lot of the starters out at the end of the third quarter. When you have a game 4 days later, that's a lot of wear and tear on the body. And to be able to get Saquon, who may have had a hurt arm a little bit, because you saw what happened, when he got his arm tangled up, that looked dangerous. That looked like it hurt a lot. But being able to get Jalen out, Saquon out, the receivers out, a couple of the offensive linemen out, get them off their feet, that was good to see, because they're and it wasn't as physical a game as, say, Washington played against Pittsburgh. They're going to be more, I don't want to say they're going to be more rested, but they're not going to be as physically taxed as Washington was, because Washington went down to the wire with Pittsburgh. So I do like that they were able to get a lot of those guys off the field. I still think that any ball that goes to Kenny Gainwell is a waste. It's so frustrating. The end of the first half, he was out there, and obviously they like him as their 2-minute running back for some reason. I don't get it. But it was good to see somebody other than A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, or Jalen Hurts or Saquon Barkley score a touchdown. Dallas Goedert and Johnny Wilson scored. But Dallas Goedert coming back from his injury, it was good to see him get into the end zone. The Eagles, when the Eagles were leading 7-3 and Dallas was dry, or no, it might have been after the fumble, where that after Jalen got sacked by Micah, he fumbled it. Dallas picked it up. Was that after? And then after that is when Zeke fumbled, if I'm not mistaken. That was a huge play by Zach Baun and CJ to be able to knock that ball out, because it went from it was 7-3 and it could have been 10-7 Dallas going into the half. But the Eagles, were able to, they didn't score on the next possession. Dallas got it back, kicked the field goal, and then the Eagles were able to go into the half up 14-6. 14-6 looks a lot better than 17-10, 14-10 or whatever it is. So the defense deserves a lot of credit, and Jalen deserves credit too, because the interception he threw, I think that was just a great play by Trayvon Diggs. Most teams pass on first down. You don't want
to. And I personally, when I saw the replay, I was personally disappointed in Goddard's effort. I didn't find.
I don't even think he knew Trayvon. I don't think he knew Trayvon Diggs was there either.
I don't think he did either.
Diggs was looking the other way. So Diggs, I don't know how many corners can make this play, but because Diggs used to be a wide receiver when he was out. He started out at Alabama as a receiver and switched to defensive back and almost transferred because of that. But he can thank Nick Saban, because Nick Saban made him a lot of money. Remember that year he had 10, 12 interceptions, even though he also gave up over 1,000 yards. But his eyes were to the outside. He flipped his hips. I don't know if Hurts could have thrown the ball sooner, or whatever. I don't think Goddard saw that that Diggs was going to be able to make that play, thought he was going to be able to make that play, and I don't think Hurts did either. It was just sometimes you have to give credit where credit is due, and Diggs made a great play on that interception. It was the only play Diggs made, but like, what are you going to do? Like, sometimes they get paid too. He's one of the highest paid corners in the league. They're professional players on the other side. Like, they're going to make a play. This isn't the old school NFL, like 3 yards in the cloud of dust where you're going to run every first down. You got to mix it up, man. And the Eagles have done a good job of mixing it up. They don't always throw on first down. They don't always run on first down. And that's what you want. Like, there are teams that come out and you know what they're going to do on the first down. I remember Andy Reid days, we knew the first play was going to be a play action deep pass. And he would, when T.O. was here, that's what he did. The play action deep pass to T.O. So, like, you don't want to be predictable. And I have no issues with it. Like, it was just a great play by Diggs. I was disappointed, obviously. Like, it was the first interception that Hurts has thrown, since September, which is crazy to think. But he deserves credit because he didn't turn the ball over, or he had the fumble, and then he didn't put the ball in harm's way the rest of the game. He looked decisive when running the football. And that dime that he threw to A.J. Brown for, what was it, like 40 yards or whatever, that was one of the best throws he's made. I've seen Jalen Hurts made. Obviously, the one that Devontae last week was outstanding, probably the best throw. But the one that he threw, like, it was a perfect dime. Just drop it right in the bucket. Couldn't have handed it better than A.J. Brown. And then A.J. Brown home 5 catches, 109 yards. Like, he's putting up 100 yards like he does it in his sleep. It was a really good – the second half obviously was way better than the first half. The Eagles scored 27 unanswered points, if I'm not mistaken. And they scored 20 of them in the second half. And Dallas is a team that if you can kind of punch them in the mouth, they're going to quit. And that's what they've quit on Mike McCarthy. I don't know how – there's zero chance he's back next year unless they go on a run and win a Super Bowl, which ain't happening because they don't have a quarterback. Their team blows. They have Houston this week. I think Houston's going to kick their ass. But, it's just the way that if you punch a certain team in the mouth, they will just give up. And that's what Dallas did yesterday. Yeah, absolutely. Back to Ryan's comment for one moment. So I look back, they had 3 possessions started in the first quarter. Saquon Barkley started with the ball in his hands on the first play in 2 out of the 3. And on the other play, it's on the other possession, it started with a pass, and then Saquon ran with the second down. They have gotten a lot better. They're getting way better. I understand the frustration, and I think it continues to stem from seeing, passing the ball on first down. People think that Saquon's not getting the touches early on, but it's way better. We, like you said, LJ, we saw games where his first touch came as the first quarter was ended. Mm-hmm. And now you see he's part of the first possession almost every time within the 1 or 2 plays. He's always within the first, in almost like if you go down the line, as long as the starters are on the field, he is touching the ball within the first 2 plays of every possession. Whether it's first play or the second play, he's getting a touch of some sort. So I think the frustration stems from the previous games and the fact that we've only seen a couple games where he's really getting involved. I think it's just these last couple games where he's really getting involved early on in the first quarter, getting the early touches, but it has changed and it is getting a lot better. And I think the Eagles saw that, realized that, and are running with that as well. Mike McCarthy, I know that, Jerry's sticking to his laurels here and he's like, I will not give up on my coach. I'm not giving up on my team midseason. I'm not going to invest all of our, he wasn't going to invest all of his draft capital at the deadline in trying to fix the team midseason. Like, he is the most stubborn guy you're going to meet, Jerry Jones. He sticks by how I started the season is 9 times out of 10 how he's going to end the season. Look at his teams. Look at what he does. How often do you see a dramatic shift in his teams from week 1 to week 18 now? You just don't. You don't, because he sticks it out, because he thinks that disrupting the flow, which 3-6, 0-4 at home, what flow do you have right now? Disrupting any type of flow is going to ruin the season for them. Like, newsflash, your season's ruined. You are now 4-5
full games out of first place in the NFC East. I'm no historian of the NFC East, but I don't think I can think of the last time a team was able to come back from 4 games down in their division to win it. So first of all, that's out of the reach. And then, like you said, there's the haves and the have-nots. Mm-hmm. And there's still some decent haves that are fighting for wildcard spots, and they're at or above 500. The Cowboys are 3 games below 500. If you were going to be a have or had a chance to be a have at the wildcard spots this season, you would have to be at 500 right now. Mm-hmm. Like, you're 9 games deep and you are not at 500. I just don't see a way that they can make it. And like you said, it's clear. You can see post game what people are saying, what Jerry's saying, how can you not be defeated when your owner is starting every week off punching you in the mouth so that the team can finish you off in the first quarter or the second quarter of the game that Sunday or that weekend? Jerry doesn't give them a chance. I would hate to be a Cowboys fan. I would hate it.
The fact that the talk after the game was they were asking Jerry about curtains because sun was in the players' eyes. Like, yeah, things.
And he went off about like, oh yeah, might as well just build a brand new stadium after I just built $1 billion. No, man, it's probably like tens of thousands of dollars in curtains, but like your own
the funny
team
part
is complaining.
The funny part is when they have other events there, concerts, WrestleMania, they have curtains that they put down. They already have them. That's the thing. But he loves
the advantage that they have for 2 quarters over the opposing team that has to play into it.
Them? Why did it affect CeeDee Lamb? Why did it affect them but didn't affect the Eagles?
But you could tell on that CD play, how do you make a play on that? Like, it was every angle, it's just pure sun just beaming into these
I went there. I was there last year. Now it was a Sunday night game when I was there. But like, it's just all glass. So like in the end, like where that sun, like, so it's understandable. I would be frustrated. And I mean, obviously Jerry doesn't care. Like, he has while the players are working out, he has tours going through the stadium. So like, all he cares about is money. They're the highest valued franchise in sports. That's all he cares about. They're never going to win anything with him. And I hope he lives forever. I really do. Because
at this rate, Jerry handing it down to Stephen Jones is the same thing, except Stephen Jones right now doesn't speak. But if Jerry goes away, Stephen could start becoming the mouthpiece that Jerry was. We don't know. But at this point, you handing it over to Stephen Jones is probably equals circumstance and situation. How many more billions do you need in your pocket to enjoy your life before you let your football team try and go out and win?
Well, hopefully not. Hopefully for him, give him all the billions.
Hopefully a lot more billions. Hopefully a lot more.
They're never going to win. Like, so what were your thoughts on that play? So after Cooper Rush fumbled in the first quarter, and it was picked up by Milton Williams. That play by Saquon where he made 3 Dallas people miss, 2 ran into each other, and 1 he did a nice little spin move. Like, the move, and Saquon, it's funny because Saquon, he did an interview, I don't know when it was, but he said that he's got his pay, he's got his money, he's got his contract, he's got what he wants. That's why he can go out there and jump over people, spin. Like, he's got what he wants, and he's looking like the younger Saquon. Like, just what he is able to do out there on the field. He stiff arm over Sean, the guy you were talking about. Like, he stiff armed him into the ground. Like, Saquon is playing free. Like, imagine if Saquon would have played with the Eagles with an offensive line like the Eagles. It didn't have to be the Eagles. It could be some, like, just have that offensive line from the beginning of his career. Like, he would be a no doubt about it Hall of Famer. Now, he still may potentially be one, but like, imagine what he could have done with this type of offensive line around him for his entire career.
Agreed. I mean, like, all he needed was a top 10 offensive line, and I don't think he ever saw outside of the 20. 10 worst. Like, I think that he always said the 10 worst was in a bottom 10 position. And I mean, that team, that quarterback, that situation altogether never did him justice. Like, it was, he never really had a chance. I mean, if he was in that offense this year with, Malik Neighbors and like a bit more weaponry to the mix, He's not having the year he's having now, but I think he's having probably the best year yet as a Giant if he was in that offense. But I mean, now we're seeing the Daniel Jones experiment continue to just rear its ugly head as let's stop, let's move on type of thing. But of course, as we always say on this show, keep him around, let him out, let him live the next 2 years of his contract. We'd be happy to see that. But I agree. Like, there's still a chance. Like, if he can do this year and next year and put up almost 2,000 all-purpose, scrimmage yards, I mean, he can easily still be a Hall of Famer. Like, some people forget, if you remove the injury seasons, which obviously we can't, but if you look back to those first couple of seasons where he was pumping out, like, with one less game, he was pumping out like 1,500 scrimmage yards. Like, he still had monster seasons. So, like, he definitely could still be a Hall of Famer, but, like, he's playing so out of his mind. Like, and even if he's banged up, he's not showing it. Like, there's not a lick of banged up show. Dallas Goedert, he's showing a banged up man right out there right now. And now he's got, they did the walkthrough today, and he did not practice, or he would have been a DNP if it was a regular practice, because now he went from dealing with a hamstring to dealing with an ankle. But if Saquon's banged up, I mean, hasn't appeared on an injury report yet, I don't think, this year, other than rest. And so it's really quite impressive what he's doing. And yeah, like you said, even like a top half of the league offensive line probably would have done him so much more justice than the offensive lines that he had to deal with in New York, and that they continue to have to deal with in New York too, like even last week alone. So I agree with you. Saquon, like, he's a beast. He ended up in the most optimal situation, and I hope that he continues to perform and continues to stay healthy, because he is such a focal point to this offense becoming what it has been able to become, that without Saquon, I would not want to imagine this offense. Yes, we have A.J. Brown. Yes, we have Devontae Smith. I get it, and they're really good, and we had them last year. They were banged up at times last year, but would this offense look as good as it does right now without Saquon Barkley? I think you can safely say no, considering he's got 1,200 scrimmage yards.
What if they had Derrick Henry?
Maybe if they had Derrick Henry too. Like, I mean, the two best running backs were the ones that got paid. So
Josh Jacobs, Joe Mixon, like,
actually three best running backs. I think Josh Jacobs is right behind, from a yardage perspective, right behind Saquon and Derrick Henry. Like, your three best running backs, and we've started to talk about it more on shows. Yes, it's still a pass-friendly league. And if you're a team that's going to run the ball 60% of the time and throw 40% of the time, you're probably not winning the Super Bowl. But at the end of the day, you need to have a run game. And the running back has been so devalued. The Eagles are notoriously bad for it. It's been so devalued that they're like, we don't even need them. But it's so clear. Look at some of the top teams in the league. I think of the top 5 teams, I think each team has one of the top 10 running backs.
Yeah.
You need a running game to complement the passing game. And I think hopefully this free agent period was enough to show teams you probably should start to respect and pay running backs again.
Yeah. And we'll see. The league is changing right now. And I think I mentioned it I don't know if I mentioned it to you a week and a half ago or Dives last week. The defenses are getting smaller. So the one thing that Chip Kelly said, big people beat up little people. So, like, offensive lines get bigger, start running the football. So and then when defenses start transitioning back to getting bigger defensive linemen, bigger linebackers, then you'll see the passing game. Even though the passing game, I think, will always be there. So, and the Eagles kind of have the best of both worlds right now. And it'll be see how they can continue to evolve with that. And hopefully, like, Kellen can stay. If Kellen stays, I mean, because if the offense continues to keep progressing, he's going to get interviews. And hopefully the Eagles don't have to get another offensive system going.
I mean, we've seen Kellen Moore get interviews before, and there seems to be, it's similar to the old Chiefs, Bieniemy. Yeah. Like, there's something about these guys where they never actually got hired. We can argue what we want to argue about, other things at play, but Kellen Moore has gotten multiple, he's interviewed almost every offseason for multiple head coaching jobs, and he never gets them.
Yeah.
So there's something about Bieniemy and Kellen Moore that maybe doesn't speak to teams of your head coaching material, and maybe that will do us wonders if he continues to have control over the offense, that he'll agree to stay in Philadelphia and he'll want to stay in Philadelphia. My hope is that he stays in Philadelphia because, like you said, or like we've said in past episodes, Jalen Hurts has not had the same. Well, but Shane Steichen was the same offensive coordinator for 2 years. That was it. Yeah. So outside of that, in 6 years in the NFL, Jalen Hurts has had 5 different offensive coordinators.
Plus his college days.
Plus his college days, he had a different coordinator every year too. So like, how do you need to have continuity? And it's shown before with teams. Continuity is so important, especially in coaching and scheme, that it's vital. Like if it's a money thing or if it's a power thing, I don't know what it might be with Kellen Moore, but if it's a money thing, give him more money to stay.
Like, I mean, there's no salary cap on coaches.
Coaches aren't on the salary cap, so
exactly. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, we're hoping we're not discussing this until after the big game in February. But we'll see what happens, and hopefully the Eagles can continue to progress. The Eagles started to chip away, putting another nail in the coffin of the Dallas Cowboys, and as you said, they were full 4 games out of first place. It's a 2-team race, and we figured the Eagles would be one of them. We didn't think Washington would be the other one. And there's a huge game Thursday night at Lincoln Financial Field between the Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles. We are going to talk about that on Wednesday night.
Little G Griffith getting ahead of it. Eagles win game. Eagles 7-2. Eagles beat Commanders. I mean, I think it's going to be a really good game on Thursday. I know, it's coming off already one of the best Thursday night games of the year, maybe in Thursday night game history. But I mean, this could definitely end up there in the top 3 games as well, because I mean, there's so much on the line. Like me and you talked about it leading into it. Me and Ryan talked about it on the episode on Friday. This 2-game stretch likely is what you would look back on for the Eagles as we won the division or we didn't win the division. It's going to be the difference. You go 2-0, there's a chance. I'm not saying anything too crazy, but there's a chance you win the division. You go 0-2, there's a good chance you don't win this division. It was such a vital, and 1-1, it goes either way. It depends what game you lost. If you win if you lose the Commanders game, then here we are tied for, I think they take a half game lead because I don't think they've had their bye yet. But so then you'd be sitting there and it's okay, this is going to come down to week 17 and week 18, likely in the NFC East. But if you can win these 2 games, you take a firm 2-game lead on the Commanders. You're 4.5 games up on the 5 games up on the Cowboys. It was these 2 games were huge. We constantly kept breaking it down. It's this 3 games, this 3 games, this 2 games. Now we've reached it and we have not stopped losing or winning. Well, and now hopefully we continue to win.
Washington, LA, and Baltimore. These 3 games.
This is a gauntlet too.
Yeah, this is it. If you can win 2 of these next 3, you're in position. The Eagles are kind of almost guaranteed. I don't want to say they're guaranteed a playoff spot, but the way that they've been playing, you would think that they're guaranteed a playoff spot.
It's them and the Lions at the top of the NFC right now.
The Lions to start losing a game here and there, but yeah, it's going to be. It could come down to the Eagles Lions, and that would be a fun race for the number 1 seed and potentially a matchup in the NFC Championship game.
Because once you get through these next 3, I think it's Panthers.
Well, we still have the Steelers.
Yeah, then the Steelers are better than expected. So you got the Panthers, Steelers, Giants, Cowboys, Commanders, I think.
Yeah.
Not in that order, but
in that order, but yeah.
You flow down the guys, because I think the Giants we end the season with
and Dallas 18, is before that.
Dallas is before that. Commanders.
The Eagles after next week, after the LA game next week, the Eagles don't get on a plane. And if they can win out, there's a potential they don't get on the plane until having to go to New Orleans for the Super Bowl. So once they get back from LA, you're taking a train to Baltimore. You're taking a train to Baltimore. You're taking a train to Landover, Maryland, and then you have Washington. You have New York coming. You have the Giants coming to Philly. You have Pittsburgh coming to Philly. Carolina coming to Philly, and Dallas coming to Philly. The Eagles have 4. They've only played three home games. They have 5 left, and so there's a chance of not much travel for the Eagles, and if they can handle business and get the number 1 seed, no travel, and again, and Detroit would have to come to Philly and play outside. So
it's huge. Like if 5 weeks ago, if you told me we were going to be talking like this, I would have been like, no chance. And here we are. We've reached this. Like our show post or pre-bye week was such a different message and such a different feeling than how we're talking right now.
That's what a 5-game winning streak will do.
But we saw what a 5-game losing streak does. Is like last year, it just completely deflated the team altogether and was part of that terrible stretch.
Saquon said after the game yesterday, he was like, we felt like September was preseason because they didn't play. And like he goes, when they were 2-2 going into the bye, like they didn't have any qualm. They weren't worried about it. Like they knew that they were figuring things out. He's like the media and outside the locker room, they all were probably worried, but inside the locker room, we weren't worried.
Were the media outside were they worried? They were absolutely worried. Look at the national media. That script has shifted tenfold on since in the last 5 weeks since the bye week. It's literally gone from a do you fire Nick Sirianni discussion to what do you do the Jalen Hurts problem to
is Jalen an MVP?
Are they going to be in the Super Bowl? Jalen Hurts MVP?
Yeah.
Like it's became such it is hilarious to watch the media narrative shift. I know you always have to have something to talk about and something to roll with, but the narrative shifts quick. But I agree with Saquon. If you don't play in the preseason, you are absolutely for the first 2 weeks is still not even enough. For the first 3 to 4 weeks, it's your preseason. It's your getting your feet, because even when you watch preseason, the play callers is vanilla. You're not showing anything. You're not trying to show your cards. And then you come in and it takes you time for some of these new people, 2 brand new systems, a lot of new players in the fold. It takes a while to build up to it. And obviously we were one of the shows that was overreacting, not maybe to the extent of other people, but we were one of those shows that was overreacting at the bye week. But I think it's something that you really have to start thinking about more often when you react to the first month of football. How much if you come out 0-4, okay, you talk that's where you talk. But if you come out 2-2, 3-1, 1-3, there's a way to have a civilized discussion and talking about maybe they're just getting their feet under them. Maybe this isn't, the be all end all. Look at the Saints. They were 2-0. They haven't won a game since. They were being talked about. Look at this historic pace of this offense.
Shoot, we both picked the Saints to beat the Eagles.
Exactly. So I think discussions need to be very differently had through the first month of a football season going forward. I know I will start to view it a little bit more differently going forward. And I know that in time we have viewed it a bit differently, but other media sources definitely won't, because it wouldn't give them something to talk about.
People they're still going to complain that the Eagles don't play in preseason next year. And it's obviously worked for Sirianni because they're usually healthy going into the season. They've made the playoffs 3 straight years. This will be the 4th straight if they continue with the right. Just let Sirianni do what Sirianni does. And the fact he's come close, but he hasn't cost them games yet. Yet being the key word. But we'll see what happens over, some big time games coming up, starting with Washington on Thursday night. Like I said, we'll be back on Wednesday to get you set for the Philadelphia Eagles and Washington Commanders in the huge NFC East matchup. And this could potentially be another great Thursday night game like last week's Baltimore and Cincinnati game. So thank you all for tuning into the Kelly Green Hour. As always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJRaw54. And follow the Eagles Pin Pool Network on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, wherever you listen to your podcast at Eagles Pin Pool Network. And thank you for the comments in the comment section. We'll be back on Wednesday to get you set for the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Commanders. For Connor, I'm LJ. Thank you for tuning in to the Kelly Green Hour.